LandCruiser, Nissan Patrol and Land Rover Discovery. They're probably what I reckon is the three best options for a big four-wheel drive with good off-road capability and could be a good family car and a tourer at the same time. Now the LandCruiser, that's been on the market for quite a while, been a really good seller, but probably getting a little bit long in the tooth. Patrol, petrol only, but very good value. And then there's the Discovery, and that's, well, pretty much brand new, and that does break a lot of normal four-wheel drive rules for the tourer. So which one's the best? Good question. Where are we headed today, mate?
Well, today we're at the back of Rydale Showground. It's one of my favourite tracks in the Lithgow area. Within about 200 metres, we're going to be driving rocks, mud, lifting wheels, pretty tough stuff for a stock vehicle. We've got fuel, we've got the tyre pressures down to 18 PSI in all vehicles, just like you guys would be if you're touring this country.
So it's going to be a good, proper test. So let's go see what we can find out.
Let's go push them.
The Patrol is a bit of a mixed bag. The petrol engine is awesome, but obviously the shortcomings is from how much fuel it uses. 140 litre tank is pretty big, but when you're using say 20 litres per 100 Ks, you'll smash through that fairly quickly. But it is a really good value proposition. This is the highest spec Patrol you can buy, and that's still under $90,000, where the Sahara LandCruiser is about 120, and the Discovery starts at about 85. For a big family four-wheel drive with a little bit of value thrown in and that awesome engine, then this Patrol does make sense. Just not at the Bowser so much, but whether that's important to you or not, I suppose is up to you. So I'm currently in the LandCruiser 200 series. This is the Sahara spec, so top of the tree, pretty much the most expensive Toyota you can buy. It's about $120,000. Comes with all the mod cons. This is a cooled center console, all the leather, heating, cooling seats, lots of technology, despite being a very old car as well. Definitely the oldest car on test actually. So that means it's got a live rear axle, independent front, typical low range gearing. It's got quite a bit of off-road technology in this vehicle as well. It's been updated a fair bit as the car has moved on. So this thing, although it is the favorite, it is going to have its work cut out for it today. So here we have a Land Rover Discovery. Now this is a 2-litre twin turbo diesel. Now a 2-litre SE like this car costs around $85,000 to get into. This one we're driving at the moment though has been optioned up to $120,000 with lots of things. There's a off-road pack, there's fancy seats, there's third rows, there's heads-up displays, I could talk to you all day about the amount of technology that's in this car. It's definitely by far the smallest engine here and the least powerful, but it does have weight on its side, 100%. It weighs almost 700 kilos less than these other two vehicles.
Right, we've arrived at one of my favourite drives in the Lithgow area.
Mate, this looks pretty interesting. I'm going to note this one for future reference.
This is probably the most exciting part. Now I'm going to hug to the left and try to put it through the stupidest, most crossed up sort of section we can safely. If that doesn't work, we'll stick to the right hand side and we'll have a look at the rocks and see how they are.
Cool, let's go.
Alright, so we're crossed up, front end's just bit. 1, 2, 3, traction control doing its thing. It's pretty good. On the side step there. We'll spring around this one right into this big rut here. It's biting really well. The traction control's pretty quick. The old throttle's a bit touchy, I must admit. So it's really hard to keep it nice and steady. And it's a big car to be putting through a track like that. But there we go. Last bit of traction control. We're through the toughest bit. That's incredibly impressive for an all independently sprung four-wheel drive, you know. People saying that independent suspension doesn't flex and you have to have live axles. But traction control these days, you don't need it.
Now my turn. So I've selected loose rock mode on this because I thought that was fitting, and locked the centre diff. Second gear, low range. Let's see if I can just mosey up. So I think I was bottoming out there. for a second, but I managed to turn it around a little bit and get it moving in the right direction. But probably a little bit less clearance than the Patrol, I would say. Now the slowest of crawls. Oh,
Left hand down a bit.
very gentle throttle there, and it kind of sorts itself out in a way. The brain sort of ticks over and it thinks, all right, where does this drive need to go? Let me figure it out. It does it fairly well.
We're in the Discovery now. The problem we've got here is it started raining. It's a little bit greasier, so it'll be a little bit more of a test for the Disco, and being an all-new vehicle, first time I've ever driven it actually. It's interesting to see how it operates. So I've got it in rock mode, no diff lock, just drive. We've got the air suspension up all the way, which is going to reduce the suspension down travel, but it's going to give me the clearance that I need. So it's a compromise I'm happy to make. I'm getting a bit crossed up here. It hasn't done this as well as the Y62, in my opinion. Needs a lighter throttle input, and let's lift at the front wheel again. I have to say, I think this is probably the scariest car to drive out of the three. But if you like living on the edge and lifting wheels, then it's a bit of fun. And we've just made it up to the top.
So to find a verdict on these cars, we've got a bit of a testing regime, and we're looking at a few things in particular. There's engine and gearbox performance, there's safety, handling and braking, comfort and NVH levels. For off-road stuff, it's about off-road capability, but it's also about touring suitability as well. Gearing and traction aids is another one. A lot of that revolves around traction control and locking diffs, obviously. And then just good old-fashioned off-road clearance, because that's going to be one thing that's going to stop you from getting up some tracks. Things like modification suitability, underbody suitability, what it's like under the bonnet, if you can see where the alternator is, where the air intake is it a good size, the air filter, all those sorts of little details that I think is really important for the four-wheel driver. We're not going to give the best car because it's the easiest to park at Woolies. We're going to say it's the best because it's the best to cross a desert in. And then there's a lot of stuff which maybe isn't that important for four-wheel driving, but is still important for someone buying a new car. So that's things like specs and technology, how comfortable and convenient it is inside the cabin. Other things like family functionality. These things all seat 7, 5 very comfortably, so they've got to be a good family car. And then load area and versatility. Because they are a big car, you need to be able to use that space well. The LandCruiser does feel a little bit dated in this current comparison. It's got the big V8 diesel, which is still awesome. Running through a 6-speed auto, which isn't too bad. The ride is a little bit boaty, but it is definitely comfortable. I found off-road, traction control is quite good. Probably a bit less clearance to the others, just from the seat of the pants experience, but still very, very capable off-road.
The Y62 Patrol, this is the car that people love to hate. I think you need to get over the fact that it only comes with a petrol motor, because it's a sweet motor. Yes, it's going to drink a little bit more, but you've got to weigh this up with the initial purchase price. It wasn't lifting wheels as much as I thought. And the all-independent suspension, I thought I would hate it. It actually works very, very well. It had good clearance underneath. It definitely needs bash plates and underbody protection. So if you were in the market for a Y62, and I suggest you should take one for a test drive, definitely invest in some underbody protection.
There is so much to really like about this Discovery. It's lightweight, it's really nimble, it's nice to drive, it's really efficient. And it's awesome off-road because of all this technology that it has. It's got an awesome traction control system. The suspension's pretty good. There's stacks of clearance and the underbody protection is really awesome. But it does have some shortcomings, and that's because it is so advanced. I don't think you can fit a bull bar to this thing at the moment. And for me, as a four-wheel driver in Australia, it's a bit of a deal breaker, because if you're driving somewhere and you hit a roo, then this becomes a pretty big 2-ton paperweight going on the back of a truck somewhere. The interior, really nice, really comfortable, very elegant as well. So we've got some results, mate.
I think it's a logical conclusion and there's no real surprises. I'm surprised at how tight it was, because there was a matter of 1 or 2 points between second and third place.
But without any further ado, third place is the Nissan Patrol. Even having the best value proposition here, I think it was held back by I think the interior just wasn't as good or functional as the others here. And also that underbody thing was a bit of a stick in my hat, so to speak.
It's just not as refined.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a bogan wearing a nice shirt.
It is,
It's not, you can see through it.
And you can't just love it because of the V8, because it is awesome, but there's so much more to a car than just how cool it sounds at $6,000. Second place is Land Rover Discovery. There's so much great about it.
It's not about you, Sam, it's about the points on that piece of paper right there.
Where it lost was modification suitability.
100%.
It lost a lot of points there because
100%.
it's just not really that suited to typical mods that people do like to do.
Absolutely, it's a very clever vehicle. It's retained some of the old school heritage with the full alloy bash plates underneath. A bit too much too soon, I think.
For four-wheel drivers, maybe.
I need time to adapt to this one,
Yes,
Sam.
we've got a bit of Luddite in us, I suppose, don't we?
And the winner, Sam?
Toyota LandCruiser.
Right.
It's won by a fairly healthy margin, actually, because of those suitabilities to four driving, touring, modifications and that sort of thing. That's where it really jumped ahead,
100%.
according to this testing.
So according to our testing criteria, the best four-wheel drive in this group is the Toyota 200 Series LandCruiser.